you've interviewed a lot of chefs as part of these experience videos and blog posts on the site, which I have to say I think is amazing. Like it's something that I hope to incorporate. Like I see a full suite kind of like content thing around a certain chef when it's okay to travel for me again, where it's like I do a long form conversation like this, and then I also go out to eat at that restaurant, and then I get to talk to some of his line cooks because that's something that like I'm really passionate about, and then it's like this whole suite of content that I can put out about an experience and about a location and about a chef. But one thing that I think you get from those conversations, hopefully you get, is a sense of that chef's philosophy, and what I will sometimes call like what the chef has to say. And so as kind of a meta question, when you ask those questions to chefs, what are you looking for in those answers?
Yeah, I think especially if it's a new restaurant, or at least new to us, we want to uncover like the essence of what it's all about, because with our YouTube videos, it's not a full-length chef's table episode. It's pretty short. So we want to ask the right questions that get to the heart of what this chef is about, whether that's sustainability and all the ingredients coming from this mile radius around his restaurant. Like, what is it? Or is it nothing related to sustainability? Is it getting the best ingredients from all over the world and sourcing them from however far you have to get them? Like, whatever it is, it's different for each person. And I think it's like doing research ahead of time and knowing about them to be able to ask the right questions, which we write in advance so that we're prepared, and then also seeing where the conversation goes and just trying to connect. And
yeah, it's a good question, because as with everything we do, we kind of just we start doing it without thinking too much, and then we learn as we go. So with these chef interviews in the beginning, we weren't really super prepared, to be honest. Like we thought, well, we'll just wing it, we'll just talk with them and have a conversation, and we'll get something out of it, And then you start realizing, man, it's really hard to get people to talk about the core, the essence of what you want them to say, because we have an idea of what we want them to say so that we can use it in our video, but it's hard to get people to say it in like a short, concise, precise way.
But I'm trying to tease out in this answer for the chefs that are listening, like it's part of the reason why I think I find myself moving more in the direction of projects that I've been working on, because I don't think that I have anything unique to say with my food yet that isn't already out there or hasn't already been said. And so I'm working on these other projects until something will happen in my life where I say, this is what I have to say about this. And the only way to bring this to life and put this out into the world is with, insert thing, a food truck or a restaurant concept or a tasting counter or whatever. And I think chefs don't you do all the work of like meeting with architects and building out the space and hiring staff and creating dishes and doing all this stuff, but you don't actually know what it is that you have to say. Or like Anders, you're talking about that one line of like, this is why I'm doing this,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm trying to get chefs to be more comfortable with having those hard conversations with not just themselves, but like really just like distilling it down into this thing. 'Cause it makes it so much easier to talk to content creators like you, like the media. It makes it easier to talk to your staff. It makes it easier to train people. It makes it easier to write menus when it's like you point the ship in the direction, that of what you're trying to do.
And I think, first of all, I think there's a good market for you out there to consult on that, because I think a lot of chefs could need that training. And it's so easy to spot when a chef has had that training. Like we interviewed Rasmus Kofod from Geranium for one of our videos, and we did not shoot anything twice. And at the end, yeah, exactly. I remember at the end of that interview, we said to him, "You're a natural. This was great. Thank you for your 8 minutes, which will probably be cut down to 6 minutes."
Amazing.
If it's a new up and coming chef, they're maybe a little bit more nervous on camera, or like you can see that they have so much passion inside them, but they're having a hard time articulating it, what it is. And it's just, trying to make them like, you have to like make them like have confidence in themselves, and you'd be like, you're doing something amazing. Like, we really want to showcase your restaurant, and like we believe in it, and we believe in you. And like, please believe in yourself, because you are doing something very cool and unique. And sometimes I think it just takes a little bit of like getting comfortable with us. Usually interviews like that just take longer because we just try to have a natural conversation with them first, and then once they relax a little bit, then they can be more open. And
that's a key point, because we always try to make our interviews more like conversations. We kind of set it up so that the chef is facing Kaitlin, who's asking the questions, and then I'm kind of on the side with the camera, which is a nice angle anyway for an interview. I hate the kind of like looking into the lens kind of style. So that makes it a little easier. And I think we've just learned to do like a 15-20 minute just chat before we really get into the questions and what we want them to say.
It's also funny because one thing that made me laugh is that chefs, like, I don't know their dishes so well or something. Like sometimes we ask them to like highlight a couple signature dishes that we are maybe going to shoot in the kitchen or something like that, just to get the specific details. And I think, I don't know, maybe this is just one person, maybe this is not true for all chefs, but I feel like there's been times where maybe the front of house has been more trained on how to present the dish, and the chef just will say like, I'm like, oh, what's a signature dish on the menu right now? And they'll be like, scallops. I'm like, cool. Are they served with some Sarah sauce? Like, are they cooked? So are they raw? Like, you have to, and then they're like, oh, right, you don't know what I'm talking about, because they're so used to it. They know it so well.
Or they will go into way too many details about the cooking process, but not so much about what's on your plate, what you're going to see. So we're like, okay, but could you just summarize the
main element? You present it like you would present it to the table, scallop with this sauce and topped with this herb and whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, I can relate. I am not super comfortable on camera, and I can kind of relate with a lot of them when they're nervous. And I have no problem with talking to you even though we're on camera now, because we're just having a conversation.
So that's how we try to make it feel for them,
and that makes all the difference.
I think it just takes practice.
For sure. I have a whole video on the channel that talks it's called How to Talk About Food, because I think it's so crucially important. And one exercise that I gave to chefs that I think is valuable for myself when I'm writing menus is to, when you write a dish, you write it in 3 ways. So you write the dish on how it's going to be written on the paper menu, even if you don't have a paper menu. You write how you're going to talk about it with the chefs, because that's, Anders, to your point when you're talking about like something is sous vide and it's dressed with this oil and it's the acid in this dish is going to be whatever. And then you have what you're going to tell the guest at the table, which is usually like the short and sweet. Maybe you fluff it up with a little bit of language, talk about where the mushrooms are coming from, for example. And they're all different. Like, they're all different. They have different use applications, and you use different language and you approach them in different ways. Maybe even the way that you order the words is different. And then the other thing that I wanted to share, like a little bit of a chef anecdote, is that there's a certain sense when you get to a certain place of doing either the same menu structure or the same dish over and over again, is you fall into almost like this circus performer mindset, where it's like you see the same show every single night, so you don't think it's special. But like to someone who's never been to that restaurant before, it's like totally mind-blowing and they've never seen it before. But like maybe it's like the magician's dilemma, because it's like how the trick works, so it's not special to you. But to the audience member who's never seen it before, it's like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard, it's you have to constantly remember you have an audience and you're a performer.
Exactly.